Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Secret Sunday session today. Today, I'm joined by Drew, and for those of you that don't know who Drew is, he is a musician. He's also the founder of Kick On Charity, and I want to welcome him in today because today we're going to be talking a lot about mental health as well as his story and what he's done along his journey to really implement positive changes in his life. So, welcome, Drew, to the podcast. Thank you so much for jumping on.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Ash. Pleasure. We finally made it happen.
I know, it's great. It's always great when you can connect with people, especially, I mean, it's such a privilege in the world that we're living in today that we get to do this. As much as we can sort of talk about technology in a poor way, there are privileges and assets to it, which this is one of them. So it is great to be able to share your story even on this platform. Now, I could go on and share with everybody what I think your story is about, but I think it's best always coming from the person themselves. So for those people that are not aware of who you are, could you just explain a little bit about who you are and what it is that you're doing with yourself now?
Hi, guys. I'm Drew.
It's the best intro.
Alcoholic, as far as I know. But no, look, I grew up in a tiny country town called Tara, which is about 400 k's west of Brisbane. There's actually a lot of bushfires out there at the moment, so a bit touch and go out there. But yeah, had a really good upbringing. Grew up on a sheep and cattle farm out there. Mum and dad are still out there at the moment. And then from there, I actually moved to Thursday Island in the Torres Straits and lived up there for 4 years working. Then went on to gas and mining camps and did FIFO for a couple of years. And when I was out there, I kind of had a bit of a moment which set me on a different trajectory. So I was, about 8 weeks out from getting married to the love of my life. And she called the wedding off, like kind of out of the blue. And up until that point, I hadn't really experienced too much adversity. So I was very, very lucky and very privileged in my upbringing. And I guess the way that kind of life had turned out for me so far, and everything was right on track and I had everything planned. So when this happened, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I kind of just fell in a bit of a heap, didn't know what to do, made some pretty poor mental health decisions for myself. And mainly just, the FIFO lifestyle went from being something very healthy and productive to quite unhealthy and isolated, and a really negative experience very quickly, just because I didn't talk to anybody and I isolated myself. And so, I started spiraling pretty hard and hit rock bottom pretty quickly. So basically, long story short, I decided to, do the only rational thing I could think of and quit my job and become a musician. And then I started volunteering at all these different charities around Cairns, and really, really felt that there was a big space that could be filled with something like Kick On. And I kind of found my feet, in the volunteer space, and loved what I was doing. And I'd always said that I wanted to do it and just didn't have time, that old chestnut. So I got to experience that, and I loved it, and especially the mental health aspect. And decided to get together with a mate of mine who wanted to start a clothing brand called Kick On, funnily enough. He wanted to promote positive mental health. And I said, look, I want to start a charity and do some school programs and stuff. So we just kind of joined forces. And I think that was a long time ago. The concept started about probably like 8 or 9 years ago, but I think Kick On's been around for about 6 years. So.
Wow, that's amazing. And even congratulations on that journey to be where you are today after, as you said, overcoming that adversity. I mean, if we look back at that moment where you said that that was the first thing that you sort of experienced that made you really question your mental health and go down a path that you probably weren't ready to go down. Why do you think, like a lot of people, I mean, I look at that situation where you'd probably be in an environment where you didn't get any closure or you were wondering why and probably looking at yourself and going, what have I done wrong? Could you just explain to me a little bit about your headspace during that time? Because, I mean, I'm listening to this and going, I would have so many questions like, what? Like, how does this just happen?
Yeah, obviously, like that is the very cut and polished version of that story. But Yeah, look, you're exactly right. I had a lot of questions and not a lot of resolve. And I guess for me being, I'd always been a very positive, confident kind of dude that had always known exactly what he wanted and like had like a 5 year plan and a 10 year plan and all of this kind of stuff. And it was all working out, and I kind of felt on top of the world and pretty invincible. And then when this happened, yeah, I think I felt a lot of embarrassment and shame around it as well because like I was the one that kind of got dumped as well. So and that hadn't really happened to me before either. So yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions to be honest. Um, but it was like, the most amazing opportunity for me to reinvent myself and to go off in a different trajectory and ask myself all the tough questions that we're always too busy to ask. And it's like, am I really happy doing what I'm doing? And am I happy being away from home, you know, 2/3 of the year? And do I really care about, houses and money and all of this kind of stuff that I was so focused on? And it was, yeah, it was a pretty special moment to be able to sit back and actually go deep within yourself and ask yourself what you really want out of life. And luckily for me, I do understand how lucky I was that I was in a position that I could just quit my job, and I had security there and I didn't have to work for a little while. And because I wasn't getting a lot of gigs, to be honest, I wasn't even that good of a musician when I first started out.
Love the honesty.
Yeah, I thought I was all right, but like I was getting, I think I had 1 gig a week for a little while, which
Mm.
isn't enough to live off. But yeah, I was lucky that I found my feet with music and, it led me down this amazing path that I wouldn't take any of it back.
Mm. And you look at most adverse moments that people do experience, they often do turn to shutting down or isolating themselves, as you mentioned. Why do you think people do that? And why do you think you did
I think for me at that stage of my life, I didn't know how to express myself very well. And I wasn't super in touch with my emotions. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. And even though like I had like a really good work environment, like the guys I worked with, like 10 guys, and they're all absolute legends. And I know that if once I did finally tell them what was going on, they were super supportive. And, that's the amazing thing that I've kind of learned, especially from that experience is, when you share, it gives other people the opportunity and it gives them permission to share as well. So once I started sharing, then all these other stories are coming out, and my story wasn't even the worst one out of the group. Like all these other guys have been through so much more more stuff than what I had. So it really put things in perspective. But I think that comes down to my upbringing, like rural country farm life, and being a young man, and my dad and grandfather are just really hard like farm men, and we didn't see a lot of emotions or crying or all that kind of stuff out on the farm. As amazing, amazing dad and grandparents that I had, but just wasn't a thing when they were growing up. So yeah, which is funny because I've seen my dad like change a lot over the last, well, since I've got into kick on and the mental health space, but then also with him having like grandkids and stuff is just really changing him. So it's cool to see that becoming more acceptable, not just in my family, but in society as a whole.
that? Because we do see that like mental health is getting a lot of talk at the moment, and implementing positive mental health practices into your life seems to have a lot of momentum. As much as we say, yes, it's great to hear these conversations, do you think that there's still room for so much more improvement in, say, as you mentioned, like the typical Australian man or just a man in general, that there still is so much more to be done?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Without saying, I think, it's a really good start. Um, Especially, guys my age and older, with like when we go into schools and talk to kids, we do see it's almost gone too far the other way now. Like,
Mm.
where it's amazing that it's acceptable, to have a mental illness, or to express vulnerability kind of thing, but to not attach yourself to that label. So yes, I think we definitely have a long way to go, and it's just, it's always evolving and changing what that actually is and what help we kind of need. But yeah, I think we're definitely moving in the right direction, and I can see it in my immediate circle, and I can see it in society as well. So what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think there's two sort of movements happening at the moment, and it'll be interesting to see where they go because yeah, on one hand I see that the older generations, I guess, that haven't been brought up with these conversations being circled within groups and around on social media are starting to open up and even, as you said before, just be given permission to share their feelings and be open to that conversation. And then on the other hand, as you mentioned as well, I see this younger generation that's almost jumping onto it as a sort of a victim and an attention seeking sort of mindset, which I think is something we also have to be wary of because it's being talked about so much and because it's being pushed down a lot of our throats a lot, there is this stigma then attached to it that we need to be mentally ill in order to be loved and to seek attention and to be of worth. And that's where I think the conversation has to change in the sense because yes, mental health as a whole is a great conversation to have, but there should be more education around what a mental illness is and how that is different from actually just positively looking after your mental health every day because there's a difference. And that's where yeah, it can be quite tricky to navigate, but I mean, we're entering a world where a lot of it is unknown and it is going to be each day and just taking it case by case. But yeah, I'm interested to see how it will unfold. I just think that, yeah, messaging has to be clear.
Yeah, and look, not to write off, the generation coming through school, because
Oh, of course.
they're amazing. Like they're so much more advanced than what I was when I was at school and anything that I've seen. So definitely don't need to lose faith in the younger generation. But it is, yeah, it's one of those things. It's almost cool to have anxiety or depression when you go into
Mm,
these schools because it's a label, and it's like, yeah, it's okay if you do, if you experience that, that's amazing. But don't identify with that. Like, and it's not, the goal is to not have it, right? It's
mm,
not it's not just cool to have this thing that you can kind of hide behind and use as an excuse. So that's the
mm,
message that we really try to push through Kick On, is we're solutions based. We're not just trying to raise awareness, because I think there is a lot of awareness being raised now, and even though the more people doing that, the better. But trying to give people solutions and get past that, kind of to get to that next stage.
Oh, definitely. And strategies. And that was my next thing. I mean, there are so many mental health organizations out there that are raising awareness and implementing workshops and things like that. But what do you believe at Kick On? What do you try to make that's different in this space? Because you compete, and I don't like to use the word competing because we don't want to be competing in the mental health space, but there are a lot of other mental health organizations out there. What makes you guys different from, say, another one?
I guess the main thing that I love about Kick On is that we're still quite a small organization, and we're not government funded. So that sounds like a negative thing, but I think it's a positive thing, because we don't have to adhere to all these guidelines. That we can have a lot more fun with our messaging, and we can, we try to use humor wherever we can, and we just try to have fun with it. It's like, just because you're talking about these serious issues like depression and anxiety and mental health and suicide, like, it doesn't mean that we have to give you depression when we're talking about it. So we try to have fun with it, and we're not reinventing the wheel at all. Like, there's so many other people doing, what we're doing, and we promote other charities as well. We think the more people doing this, the better. The more people in this space. If everyone had a mental health charity, amazing, it'd be great. But yeah, I guess we promote the body and mind, the synergy between that and health, diet, exercise, sleep, how these things drastically affect your mental health and probably have the biggest effect on it. So yeah, and just it's all simple stuff. And the great thing is it's the same message for kids as adults. We just kind of reword it and repackage it. It's the same for the guys in the mines and the FIFO like lifestyle. Everybody has different different challenges, but it's the same kind of underlying message. And more than anything, we're just promoting that being vulnerable is a strength.
Mm. And how do people respond to your workshops?
Yeah, great. The kids love it. So it depends
Mm.
where we are. So I think we've gone to 7 different gas and mining camps now. So FIFO mental health tours. And then we go into schools, grade 10, 11, and 12. And yeah, look, it's been some pretty powerful feedback, especially in the mining. Obviously, I went through kind of my hardest and darkest days when I was out in those camps, and to go back to those exact camps and deliver a mental health speech and have people come up and unload and people that are just sitting there waiting for an opportunity and feeling like I felt where, whether there's shame or embarrassment or whatever, or they just don't have the tools to kind of deal with what they're going through, or they feel like they can't open up because of, whether it's a stigma around mental health or around, being a tough mining dude. So to break down those barriers and be able to connect with people. And that's basically all it is. It's like wherever you go, we can walk into a school and say the same thing that a teacher says, but because we're youngish, I wouldn't say I'm young anymore, but because we're not teachers and we're younger, and most of the people that are with Kick On, whether they're a facilitator or not, are really cool people, and they've just got amazing life experiences, and people can connect with that rather than the clinical aspect. And we're not clinical, so we work with clinicians that head to health, and we don't do the clinical side. We're in the prevention space, and we just share what, I guess, life experiences and our thoughts on things. And yeah, hopefully people can connect with that, and it has some positive impact.
That's amazing. And I mean, we look at workshops, and most often people will attend things like this. And as you said, open up their heart and then be willing to change and implement strategies in their lives. But we also then can't avoid that people quite easily go back into routine, and they go back into their busy schedules, and they forget about that permission. They forget about, implementing certain practices into their life. How do you think, or what do you think is the best way for people to sustain that momentum and to continue to allow themselves to implement positive mental health practices in their life? Because I know even often I'll go to a workshop or I'll go to something and I'll walk away and I'm like, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to implement this. Day 2 comes around and it's like all out the window. And as much as the intention's there, it is really hard to maintain all that positive energy and momentum that you can get from attending a workshop.
Yeah, well, that's that New Year's resolution energy, eh?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
we've all seen that, we've all experienced that. We've like, yeah, this year's going to be different, and we write down 50 things that we're going to change, and we're going to be a totally, new year, new me, and it lasts, a week, 2 weeks max, and then we're back to our old habits. And I love the science behind that. Like I do. There's an amazing book called Atomic Habits, which I highly recommend everybody gets around. And I think my biggest takeaway from that, and my thing has always been like small, sustainable changes. That book delves into the science behind habits and how they form, and habit stacking, which is a cool thing. So, just if you want to create a new habit, it's so much easier just to attach it to a habit that you already have. So, whether it's you want to read 5 minutes every day, well, what's something that you already do without fail every morning? It might be have a coffee. So you just read 5 minutes when you have your coffee, and it's so much easier than trying to create another time during the day or whatever. So that's habit stacking, which and then I read something really cool the other day, which was if you create like one really fundamental healthy habit, it will kind of naturally get rid of your unhealthy habits that don't align with that. So instead of saying, I don't want to smoke or drink heaps anymore and I want to get to bed early and all of this kind of stuff, instead of doing the negative side of that and trying to cancel all these things out, if you create, if you say, I want to run a marathon at the end of the year, so every morning you start going for a run at 5 a.m, then all of a sudden you've got a reason not to drink that night, and you've got a reason like smoking is hurting you at times and it's not helping, and you want to get to bed early because you're exhausted and you've got something to get up for. So yeah, big fan of goal setting and having goalposts that you can aim at. I think that is a massive part of, if you have an anchor, if the boat has an anchor, it stops you from getting swept away in the tides, because there's always distractions and things that are going to come and trying to knock you off course. But if you got something right out in the distance, and it doesn't matter if it's a holiday in 3 years' time or whatever it is, but something just a reason to kind of keep moving forward. And when we don't have that, I think that's when you can start going in circles and you don't know where your North Star is. So
I love that. Yeah, especially I think when as human beings we're almost very purpose driven in our life, and that can look different for everyone, what their purpose is and what they feel they need to be here for. And I often hear people say like I still haven't found that and I'm confused and I don't know why I'm here, and often asking those questions can make people very frustrated and then quite diminishing towards themselves. But I really loved the fact when you said like the habit stacking, like that is such a great thing, because so often people mention like I don't have time for this, there's no way I could fit this into my day. But that is one thing that, if you've already got the habit, you can stack that on top of something that I think I'm going to take away and start using.
give it a try. It's amazing. And it's
Mm.
funny, like, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. I love that saying. And it's like, because you can suggest a lot of things to people and they're like, oh, I don't have time, or, it's just, and they're all really valid excuses. That's the thing. Like everybody has really valid excuses not to do everything. You can find them and they can be genuine and they can, but then you look at, people without legs that have climbed up, Mount Everest and stuff, and like they've got the same excuses plus a lot more and they still get it done. So it just comes down, it really comes down to just, don't go out and try and climb Mount Everest tomorrow if you've never trained. It's like take off small, achievable goals and then build that resilience and you'll get there. But yeah, that's that New Year's resolution thing is like people just they go to climb Mount Everest. They don't take off small achievable goals. So
And I think in the world we're living in today, where we often just see the result of things. I mean, you scroll through social media and you see the outcome, and you see once people have reached, say, Everest, you don't see the journey. So the journey is not appreciated in people's lives. The small steps and the progress that's made and the beauty that's felt in those little moments when, you've gone past step one and then you're on to step two. We don't stop and actually appreciate how far we've come, and how long our journey has been and how beautiful it's been, because we're constantly fed the end result. And it's quite sad that we're living in this instantaneous society where we actually don't stop. And if we're going on a car trip, we don't take a note of our surroundings. We're just focused on the destination, when there is so many little moments that can be experienced and loved in between all of that.
yeah. And someone said recently that like the feeling that you get and the chemical reaction that you get from celebrating a small win is very, very close to what you get from celebrating the big win. So why would you, not allow yourself to have that amazing feeling 10 steps along the way instead of just at the end? Especially like, you shouldn't be delaying. I'm all about sacrifice and, short-term sacrifice, long-term game kind of thing, but don't don't do yourself out of happiness and put your happiness in the hands of an outcome or a place, you know. It's all about the journey. And as cliche as a lot of this stuff sounds, like it's cliche for a reason. Like you have to be able to enjoy the journey. You have to be able to learn how to enjoy being at the gym and not just the end of the 12-week challenge when you may or may not have a six pack or whatever you're chasing, that body weight. You know, I'll be happy when I get this. I'll be happy when I get that, because you'll get a short spike of happiness and you'll come back to your baseline anyway. So it's it's gone very quickly. So you've got to learn to enjoy the hard work and the challenge, you know.
And I think it's funny, even when you reach the outcome, I feel like it's almost innate in all of us to continue to have that chase. Like you shouldn't stop there. You know, once you have climbed Everest or once you have reached that goal or you've done that challenge or whatnot, I think it is important to set something else in your life to then go and chase or achieve so that there is that purpose built. And I mean, looking at your experience and in your life, once you made that decision to say, become a musician, that journey then would have been quite extensive. And once you feel like you've gotten better, how do you continue to maintain that and to continue to have goals in that space?
Small challenges. Yeah, like I've, you know, it's that thing. Like I wanted to be a successful musician, and the good and bad thing about that is success is totally up to you. Like you get to define what success is for you. So for me, you know, I was like, I wanted to record a single and record an album and release that, and I wanted to have it, you know, reach a certain stage in the charts, and I wanted to play it, you know, festivals and all of this kind of stuff, and you know, all of these pretty big goals. And I ticked off pretty much all of them that I wanted to do, and now like I still feel I love playing music. Now it's more shifted into personal development and like getting better and just really enjoying who I play music with and the gigs that I do. And I think before a lot of it was ego driven too, you know, like I wanted to be on the big stage and do all this kind of stuff, and that was sick as well, and it's good to have that drive. But again, I'm lucky that I've kind of learned my lessons early, and I have enjoyed it and haven't delayed my happiness to get the thing, because I know friends that have, and when they get the thing, they go, oh shit, that wasn't it, you know. That wasn't the thing that I've been chasing, and it didn't fill the hole in me, and it didn't make me feel any better. So yeah, for me, music is just I just love it, and it's like therapy for me. I think everyone needs a creative outlet, and I feel so grateful, and you know, it's very humbling. I get to play with some way better musicians than what I will probably ever be, and they willingly give up their time to come and play music with me, which is amazing. And I love, you know, that it makes people happy most of the time.
I think it's also like it makes people happy, but in like it serves its purpose in the moments of expressing how people feel as well when they feel like they don't know how to. It can be quite a relieving source for people to just put in your earphones or just to turn on that, like press play on a song and it speak what you feel like you can't say.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so powerful. It's such a powerful vehicle. Like I've had people message me and say one particular song, Time to Say Goodbye, which was about that big breakup and stuff. And a lot of my songs are about, you know, all my personal stuff, because that's what it is for me. I generally don't write a lot of songs when I'm feeling good and everything's going well. So actually, but like it's my therapy. So when things are hurting, you know, I'm hurting and I'm having a hard time, I'll sit down and write and put my feelings onto paper, and that's why most of my songs are pretty depressing, you know.
So when you release something, I know I've got to send you a message and check in to see if you're okay.
Yeah, like, oh shit, he's released a song, he must be having a hard time. Yeah, but there's a song called Time to Say Goodbye, and I've literally had people send me messages and like say that it's saved their life, you know, like they've listened to it when they've been in that exact same space. And you know, and then I've had other people telling me that my music is shit and that I can give up. So I don't like it. It all comes with a grain of salt these days. But I think yeah, I don't feel any pressure around music. Like it is what it is. Like I don't feel drawn to like that I need to be any bigger or better. I just love doing it, and I'll keep doing it as long as I can. Like, yeah, basically, I could be kind of retired. I kind of am retired. Like, I'd still be playing music if I was retired. So I just don't have any free time because all of my projects and stuff. But I love everything that I do. So yeah.
It's amazing. I feel like one thing my dad always told to me is like, if you can find a career where you feel like you don't work a day in your life, then you have reached the idea of success that he's painted in his life. And I love that. I love that idea that, we're all here to find our passion and to find our purpose if that's something that we want to pursue. And if we can somehow find a way to turn that into our career and do that for the rest of your life, then I know personally, if I find a way to be able to do that, then I know that's the idea of success that I know that I've met.
Yeah. And like, not everybody has to quit their job and be a musician, but like, just whatever your thing is, like, just to have it in your life in some kind of aspect. Like, um, maybe I quit my job and just jumped into it, and I don't recommend that. I fell on my feet, but it took a lot of hard work and stuff as well. But just to have your passion in your life in some kind of aspect, I think is really important. And then if you put enough hard work into that, then you can turn it into something. If you can make money from it as well, then that's amazing. But it's not, it doesn't have to be.
Mm,
Just you need a creative outlet. You need to be doing something that you're passionate about. And if you don't have anything that you're passionate about, like spend a year or 2 years or whatever, just trying as many things as you can and seeing what that is, like
mm. Find that source of expression. That's what I like to explain creativity is like. It's like a form of expression in an artistic way. And yeah, you just got to kind of find it for yourself. But I love that. Try different things. But I want to circle around to, I feel like we can't avoid it because most people know you or have seen your face from obviously the reality television series Married at First Sight. What was going through your head in order to apply for Married at First Sight?
yeah, and I'll grab something before we get into this. Yeah, look, we all make mistakes, but basically I didn't apply. I applied for something else years ago. And what happens is that I've come to understand is if you apply, there's probably two main production companies that do every single reality show that you see on TV, whether it's Survivor, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, like all of these shows. One of them, the main one, is called Endemol Shine. So I applied for another show years ago, and basically they must have just said this guy would be a suitable candidate for these bunch of shows. So every time a show casting comes up, a producer would like send me an email or give me a call or
You're
flick
on
me
the
a message,
books.
social media or whatever. And that's kind of how it came. So they hit me up to do maths, and I was like, yeah, that could be all right. Like I was so oblivious. I don't watch TV. Like
Oh,
I
you had
literally
no idea what you were entering.
absolutely not. Like I've got social media, so I see the short snippets and all that kind of stuff, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, how bad could it be? And they really sold it as an adventure, and I'm all about that. And I like to think that I'm not stupid, even though it sounds it's it sounds contradictory given the fact that I said yes to this thing. But I had a fair idea what it could be like, and I thought that there's probably a 50-50 chance that I'd either regret it or not like it. But I'm like, I don't want to live the rest of my life and not know what that would be like. Like it's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity, a bit. So I'm like, yeah, fuck, I'll do it. Why not? And
And how was it?
it was terrible. It was terrible. It was so bad. So
Oh,
yeah, like one second day, like the first day was crazy and exciting, and like that's legit. Like it's pretty hard not to be excited in this, crazy energy, and with all your friends and family there, and this huge thing is about to happen. But by about day two, I was like, oh, I could see what it was kind of creeping through, and it was, yeah, it was a really hard 6 weeks for me. It was, to be honest, it was probably I probably ended up in a worse state than my marriage being called off by the end of that show, and it just goes against everything that I stand for with Kick On and my whole life. And I was like, it's literally taking advantage of people with mental health issues and a lot of manipulation and gaslighting and these horrible psychological tricks that I'm like, man, I can see exactly what's happening because that's my life, right? Like I love researching that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was definitely an eye opener. I think the positive that I got out of it was definitely grew as a person, like, and strangely enough, I learned how to communicate my feelings because
wow.
I didn't have the best. I wasn't that good at it before that, to be brutally honest. And who would have thought that this show about relationships would make you sit down and talk about your feelings and uncomfortable conversations all day, every day with cameras in your face. So that was a huge positive.
Mm.
Apart from that, I I didn't watch it before I went on it. I didn't even watch all the episodes that I was on, and I'll
Mhm.
definitely never watch it. Yeah, I think it's a horrible thing, and um,
Wow.
but yeah, I met some cool people on there, uh, and yeah, like no regrets. I would never take it back, but would highly recommend not doing it to anybody that's thinking about it. And yeah,
Because I was
yeah,
gonna say, like, how do you stay strong with who you are and your values in an environment that is so toxic, and not only toxic within yourself and your own people, but it's shown worldwide. And you have to be strong with who you are. And even if that's not displayed on camera, you have to stick to your gun and you have to trust yourself and you have to turn up for yourself because you're kind of walking that road alone.
yeah. It's a strange thing because I'm quite sure with who I am, and I feel like I'm very mentally strong. And I went in there thinking, like, I had people warn me. I literally only had 6 days to kind of prepare for it because that's so they asked me to go on it, and then I didn't. You know, they kind of got me all excited for it, and then said, "Oh, sorry, we didn't find anybody for you." And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool, no worries." And then it was the next year that they rang me and said, "Hey, are you still single? You get married in 6 days." So I hadn't like spoken to them for 12 months, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I went in there very confident in myself and very sure of who I was, and very confident that they couldn't make me look bad or make me seem any way that I wasn't. And man, by halfway through, I was like, "Who am I?" I was doing the whole Zoolander thing, like looking in the puddle of water, just like it is so hard um, being in such a isolated bubble where you can't talk to anybody outside. You're literally stuck in this tiny little bubble, which the whole world isolated from the whole world. And then if you've got a producer in your ear telling you that you're lying and saying that you're not being honest and you're not in here for the right reasons, and you're you have other motives, and like all of these crazy games that they kind of play with you. And every time I'd laugh at something or make a joke, I'd just get shot down. And like I'm quite bubbly and outgoing, and I have a pretty inappropriate sense of humor, to be honest. And like every time I'd say something, I'd just get totally shut down by the producer and then the person that I was in there with as well. So by the end of it, I was literally questioning myself, and I ended up ringing one of my mates and having a good chat to them because I was like, and I couldn't work out, and we weren't eating weren't fed good food, and it was like sleep patterns were all messed up, and yeah, it was pretty wild. Like it's kind of designed to bring out the worst in you, which I think is kind of one, a tactic that they use, because
Yeah.
break under those kind of conditions. And even for someone as, I literally study mental health. Like mental health is my thing, and I was even pretty broken by the end of it. So I really feel for people that they get on there that clearly have mental health issues, and they know that, and they take advantage of that.
Wow, it's sad that almost that's what reality television preys on.
Well,
And I I love that. That is so good.
yeah.
Oh wow. How good. What a good message to everyone out there. That's your takeaway from this podcast, everyone. Don't apply for maths or don't watch it.
Well, I don't. I get the appeal because it's just drama and people like that.
They
But
like to escape it as well. They like to escape their reality and relate to something or make it seem like their world is not as bad.
it's so strange, like meeting so many people since then that are clearly fans of the show, and like they watch all of the seasons and stuff, and it seems to be a majority of it. People just watch it because they don't like it, and they just like to vent and kind of, I guess, like kind of pick on the people that are on there, and they pick people specifically to go on there to rile people up, right?
Mm.
But I've met a lot of these people. I was lucky that I was one of the good people on there, I guess, or like that was the character that they was chosen for me.
Mm.
Um, but a lot of people get really bad edits and get shot. Like the crazy stuff they can do in editing, man, is hectic, and the way they portray people when people are on there, you don't understand that people might they might get someone that's quite insecure, and they get them on there and just gas them up and be like, really try to push them and encourage them into these situations. And then when they do it, they get rewarded, and they think they're doing the right thing. Like their producers are patting them on the back and, oh, that's amazing, it's gonna be so good. And they know good and well that they're going to come out and be shown
So long.
in a horrible way and have their, pretty much have their lives destroyed because of it. And it's just, to make money. It's all just to make money. And it's crazy, man. It's really crazy seeing.
It's so sad.
Yeah, like it's just I felt disgusting for being on there, to be honest. Like I'm just, after a little while, I'm like, oh, this is so horrible. And it's just so the opposite of the person that I am and the people that I hang out with. And none of my mates watch maths. Like
Mm.
all of my mates are like, what are you doing? Like it's a terrible show. And I'm like, it'll be fun.
Yeah. Naivety. But I mean, after everything, I mean, yeah, walking away and knowing, I guess, then starting that journey of finding yourself again and figuring out what you want, knowing that that is definitely not what you want. I mean, that could be a little bit of a blessing in the journey, in the outcome. And I mean, you've been through so much and experienced so much and are now doing so much with your charity kick on. What do you want people to take away when they hear your story or when they come to a workshop? What are the things that you really want them to be able to take away from your story and implement in their lives?
Don't watch maths. No, look,
Number one, tick, yes.
yeah, look, I'm a pretty big advocate for that. But more than anything, I think just like challenge yourself, set yourself goals, practice being vulnerable and showing vulnerability, and just bite off little challenges that are just outside of your comfort zone. Like lean into that kind of stuff. Help your mates out. I don't know, just try and be a little bit better each day. And that looks different to everybody, which is awesome because we don't want to all be the same thing and the same person. But yeah, more than anything, I think it's just, yeah, just being comfortable, just be the most authentic version of yourself. and promote that to other people, because that's contagious. And there's nothing better. Like, when I'm playing a gig, there's strange people come up all the time and they'll be dancing by themselves, and you see other people kind of making fun of them. And it's just, I just think that is the bravest and most amazing thing you can do, is just to not give a shit about what everyone else is doing and do your own thing, and just try to be, I don't like saying try to be happy, because happiness isn't, I don't think happiness is the goal. I think being challenged and finding value and taking on responsibility is the ingredients to having a meaningful life. And yeah, try as many things as you can.
Just not
maybe
much.
not crack. Don't smoke crack.
Oh yeah, and crack and maths not off the table, but everything else. I love it. Thank you so much for jumping on today and sharing insight into your story and also what you're doing with Kick On. I'm honestly just so honored to be able to sit here and be able to, provide that platform for you to really share what you were doing. And as I said, congratulations on your journey and where you are today, because yeah, you face a lot of adversity, but you know who you are now and you're able to really share that with so many other people. And I'm sure you are making a difference in so many people's lives. So thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me, mate. Like, yeah. And to everyone out there, just do the best you can. And keep doing what you're doing. Love it. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And lastly, just where can people find you if they want to sort of reach out, or if they might even want to invite you to come to a workshop? Where is the best place to contact you?
Well, yeah, like my socials are Drew Boy Music, I think. On Instagram's the main one, Facebook, but Kick On Charity, check out their Instagram as well. Like we do, we're pretty heavy on our socials, and then kickon.com.au. If anybody, I guess with our merch and stuff, that's kind of how we, can't even see that. It's how we support what we do, but more importantly, it creates support networks in communities. So if you're out and you're ever having a hard time, or you're not, and you see a Kick On hat or a shirt or whatever, like just go up and say hello. Because that's what we're trying to create is, support networks. And there's no one in a Kick On shirt that's a bad person. So, that's how we spread our message and get around it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone as well out there for joining us for another Secret Sunday session. We'll catch you all very soon.
Yeah.